The small white house sat quietly on the edge of the Oregon forest, surrounded by towering maple trees. It wasn't luxurious, but to 5-year-old Liam Carter, it was the whole world, a place where he could run barefoot through fallen leaves and imagine himself as a great explorer on a mission to conquer the wild. To Liam, the woods behind the house weren't a silent, shadowy expanse. They were a magical kingdom. The towering trees were giant soldiers. The bushes were mysterious labyrinths, and every squirrel or bird was a mythical creature in one of his grand adventures. Liam wasn't like other children his age, who were often glued to tablets or TV screens. He didn't need touchscreens to be entertained. His joy came from wading through streams, collecting oddly shaped stones, and listening to the wind whisper through the leaves. His imagination was so rich that a simple bent branch could become a glowing knight sword, and an old cardboard box could transform into a time-traveling spaceship. And the only place Liam felt safer than his home was the forest he called his adventure kingdom. But within this seemingly peaceful world, there was always a quiet worry Liam couldn't name. Perhaps it was the way he noticed the exhaustion hidden behind his mother's smile. Emily Carter, the resilient woman who had shouldered every burden since her husband walked out without a word. A nurse at the county hospital, Emily worked 12-hour night shifts from dusk until dawn. Each morning she came home in wrinkled scrubs, her eyes dulled from lack of sleep, but her smile for Liam never faded. "Just be back before the sun touches the treetops. Okay, Liam?" she would say each time he laced up his shoes. Real explorers always keep their promises. "I promise." Liam would beam, wrapping his tiny arms around her waist, "because you're my hero." Emily would smile gently, ruffling his light brown hair, silently hoping the world would never hurt her pure-hearted child. 3 years had passed since her husband left, and Emily had nearly fallen apart. But Liam was the reason she stood back up. On those nights in the emergency room where life and death waged war, by the minute it was his laughter, his hugs, and his tiny hands that pulled her back into the light. She couldn't give Liam a life of wealth, but she could give him a childhood full of love, the very thing she never had. Liam understood his mother's struggles, even though no one had ever taught him to be empathetic so young. When she came home, he tried not to make noise, quietly playing outside or in the woods so she could rest. He knew sleep was a luxury for someone who always put others' lives before her own. That morning was no different. Emily had just finished another long shift, her legs nearly giving out, her mind foggy with exhaustion. But before heading to her room, she leaned down and kissed Liam's forehead. He was already sorting through his backpack with his favorite red hat on. "Just to the edge of the forest, Liam, and be back when the sun touches the treetops." "I know, Mom," he replied clearly. "I'm a hero, and heroes always keep their word." She smiled softly, telling herself that as long as he remembered that everything would be okay. Liam stepped outside wearing his little backpack. Inside was a juice box, a foil-wrapped peanut butter sandwich, a plastic magnifying glass, and an old flashlight his father had left behind like an unspoken farewell gift. He had no idea that today he wouldn't just be a make-believe adventurer. Today he would truly become a hero and change everything forever. Autumn sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting thin golden streaks across the crimson maple leaves, wrapping the forest behind Liam's house. In a dazzling, mysterious, and enchanting cloak, Liam walked along a narrow trail, his old red boots crunching through fallen leaves, the sound beneath his feet like the victory drums of his imaginary game. "Captain Liam is crossing the Valley of Shadows," he whispered to himself, clutching a wooden stick he called the Sword of Light, eyes scanning the woods for some mythical creature hiding among the trees. Everything was as usual until the wind suddenly shifted. He stopped and tilted his head. A faint sound drifted through the breeze like a soft whimper, dissolving into the air. Liam squinted. He was familiar with the forest's soundtrack, the chirping of squirrels, birdsong, even the gentle rustling of a deer moving through the underbrush. But this sound was different. It was soft, broken, and full of pain, like something was crying out for help. He took a few more steps. The sound came again clearer now. More urgent, Liam gripped his stick tighter. His small heart began pounding against his chest. "Hello!" He called out, his voice high and anxious. No answer. Just another trembling whimper that cut through the silence like a blade. Despite his mother's rule never to wander off the trail, Liam turned and stepped into the thick brush. Dry branches scraped his sleeves, thorns nicked at his cheek, but he didn't stop. The sense that someone or something needed him outweighed the fear in his heart. Just a few more steps and Liam froze. Right in front of him, trapped between two rusted iron bars, was a large German shepherd, its gray-black fur matted with blood and dirt. One of its hind legs was caught in a coil of razor wire torn open to the muscle. The blood dried into black crust, but it wasn't the injury that haunted Liam. It was the dog's eyes. Deep brown eyes looked up at him, not with anger or aggression, but with a pleading, desperate trust, as if it had placed its life completely in Liam's small hands. "Oh my God," Liam whispered. The stick fell from his hand. He dropped to his knees, eyes locked with the dog's. It didn't growl, didn't snap. It simply whimpered and stared at him as if begging. "I'll help," Liam murmured, voice trembling, but he didn't step back. He studied the wire wrapped tightly around the dog's leg, the sharp metal digging into raw flesh. Every movement made the blood gush anew. Liam swallowed hard, throat dry, but his small hand still reached out, trembling as it touched the dog's head. It didn't flinch, just let out a long breath as though some part of its fear had been lifted. Liam knew instinctively this dog wasn't dangerous. It was hurting, it was scared, and it needed a friend. "My name is Liam," he whispered. "I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I'm going to help you." He carefully tugged at the twisted wire, trying not to hurt the dog further. Each tug made it whimper, but it didn't snap or pull away. Finally, after several minutes of effort, the cruel metal gave way and fell loose. The dog collapsed, panting, its hind legs shaking violently. Liam picked up his stick, then hesitated and stuffed it into his backpack instead. He took off his light jacket and laid it on the ground. "Lie down here, we have to go home." He crouched, waiting for the dog to crawl forward. With a low groan, it dragged itself onto the coat. Liam gently lifted its head with both hands. "I'll call you Max, okay? You're Max, and I won't let anyone hurt you again." On the way back, Liam had to stop every few steps. Max could barely limp. Liam shared half his juice box and broke his sandwich into small bites, feeding them slowly to the injured dog. Max ate slowly, carefully, but never took his eyes off Liam. Something was changing in that gaze, from pain to trust. As the two warriors, one small and one large, emerged from the edge of the woods, the sun had begun to dip below the horizon. Red-orange light bathed the two silhouettes, one a tiny boy, the other a wounded creature weighed down by physical agony, but both shared something. Now they had found each other in a vast world, and both knew that from this moment forward, everything would change. Emily slept soundly in her room, the door slightly ajar, her breathing steady and fatigued as silence settled over the house. She had no idea that just a few steps away, inside the old shed behind the garden, her son was tending to a creature that carried with it a national defense secret capable of shaking the most powerful forces. Liam gently laid down an old blanket on the shed floor and helped Max lie down carefully. The bleeding from the dog's leg had stopped, but the wound was still red, swollen, and angry. "I'll take care of you, I promise," Liam whispered as he cleaned the fur around the injury with a warm cloth, trying to mimic the way his mother treated his scraped knees. Max didn't react, but the trusting gaze in his eyes stirred something unfamiliar and powerful in Liam's chest. He had never thought of himself as someone others could depend on, especially not a creature 3 times his size. Yet now Max was depending on him with every heavy breath, every weak heartbeat, every soulful glance. Then as Liam gently loosened Max's collar to clean the dried blood, he stopped. The collar wasn't like anything Liam had ever seen. It wasn't an ordinary leather strap. It was thick, durable, hand-stitched with perfect precision. Inside the collar was a series of strange numbers and a small insignia, military in design. Not a name, not a phone number, but a code, a secret. Liam suddenly remembered the look in Max's eyes back when he found him tangled in wire. It wasn't just fear, it was willpower, determination. This wasn't a regular dog. Was Max trained? A special forces dog beside the collar. Liam noticed a small scratched metal tag, nearly unreadable. But what truly made his blood run cold was the tiny microchip discreetly embedded under the collar lining. His heart pounded. He didn't fully understand what it was, but his instincts told him this was no longer a game. Max carried something big, something important, and if he had found it, others would be looking for it too, and they might not have good intentions. Just then a knock came at the door. Not loud, but in the quiet of the afternoon, it echoed like a gunshot. Liam froze. He quickly pulled the blanket over Max and gently shut the shed door. Then he ran into the house, doing his best to stay calm. Peering through the window, he saw a black SUV parked right in front of their yard. A tall man stepped out wearing a black suit and carrying a leather briefcase. He was polite-looking. Too polite to be trusted. The doorbell rang. Emily was still asleep. Liam crept to the door and cracked it open. "You must be Liam." The man smiled, though his eyes remained cold. "My name is Mr. Crane. I'm looking for a dog, a very special one. Have you seen a German Shepherd around here?" Liam swallowed hard, saying nothing. Something in his gut told him this man was lying. "You know?" Crane continued, his tone smooth. "Keeping a dangerous animal could cause serious problems for your mother." That sentence was like a cold blade slicing across Liam's chest. He knew about Mom. He didn't stumble onto this house, he was threatening them. And if Crane had made it all the way here, he would come back. He would do whatever it took to find Max. As soon as the door closed behind Crane, Liam sprinted back to the shed. Max was still lying there, eyes sharp and alert now, as if he too sensed the approaching danger. "We have to hide you better," Liam said, voice tight like a drawn bowstring. "We can't let him find you." Liam found an old cookie tin, placed the microchip inside, and stashed it in a secret spot under a loose floorboard, one that only he and a few mice knew existed. He knew he needed an adult's help, but not his mother, not now. He couldn't risk her being dragged into this. He couldn't let Crane know how much she meant to him. That night, while Emily slept, Liam quietly wrote in his little notebook, "Max isn't a normal dog, has a chip, has a military collar. Mr. Crane is lying. He's dangerous, must protect Max, no matter what." Outside, the wind picked up again. The trees whispered above like they were passing warnings between themselves. Liam clenched his fists, his eyes gleaming in the dark. He may have only been a child, but now he had become the guardian of a secret so powerful the government itself might kill to keep it buried. And the dog breathing quietly on the other side of that rotting wooden door. He was the key, a secret worth protecting, a truth no one else could be allowed to touch. The wind howled through the treetops outside the window as night cloaked the forest in darkness. Liam sat curled up near the shed's window, his eyes fixed on the pitch-black woods as if Mr. Crane might reappear at any moment. This time not alone, but with other men in black suits. Max lay beside him, still breathing heavily, his head resting on Liam's leg, as if seeking the only sliver of safety left in the quiet storm looming around them. Liam looked down at his hand, still clutching the tiny chip he'd removed from Max's collar earlier that afternoon. It was a thin piece of metal, almost indistinguishable from a toy circuit, yet Liam instinctively knew it held something incredibly important. "Who are you, Max?" he whispered. "And why are they so afraid of you?" Max didn't answer, of course, but his deep brown eyes stared back at Liam with an uncanny understanding, like he knew far more than any ordinary dog should. Liam leaned closer, gently parting the fur behind Max's ear, and for the first time he saw the faint lettering etched into the skin. Property of DoD Canine Program, code A79018R. The Department of Defense. Max had once been a military dog. Liam recoiled slightly, his chest tightening. Not from fear of Max, but from the realization taking shape in his young mind. He hadn't just rescued a dog, he had saved a military asset. And that chip he found might hold evidence of a crime that reached the highest levels of the government. He needed help, but not from just anyone. He needed someone who understood. And fate, it seemed, had been listening. Around midnight, just as Liam was about to doze off in the shed, Max suddenly rose, growling low in his throat. Footsteps approached. Liam gripped Max tightly, ready to scream if necessary, but the shed door creaked open and immediately closed again. A woman in a camouflage jacket and a military-style cap stepped inside her flashlight beam, catching the weariness in her determined face. "You must be Liam Carter," she said gently, her voice low and calm. "Who are you?" Liam asked, standing firm, one hand protectively in front of Max. "Alex Vaughn. I used to work with Max. His real name is Athena. I'm here to protect you both and to retrieve what she's carrying." Liam didn't know why, but he believed her. Maybe it was the way she looked at Max, not with fear or greed, but with quiet sorrow. And when Max dragged himself over and nuzzled her leg, Liam knew this woman wasn't the enemy. In the dim light, Alex told him everything in Athena had once been a combat dog in the special ops unit of Captain Daniel Ross, Alex's commander during a covert operation overseas. They had uncovered an illegal weapons trafficking ring involving corrupt elements inside the U.S. military. Loyal to his oath, Ross documented everything, audio files, images, documents, and split the encrypted evidence into two devices, one hidden in Athena's collar, the other on his person. But they found out, Alex said, her voice breaking slightly. "Before we could get the proof to the Pentagon, they moved in. Ross was eliminated. Athena was targeted. I escaped. They assumed she was dead too." Liam felt a chill run down his spine. And Mr. Crane, he's one of them, a cleaner. He doesn't just want to eliminate Max, he wants the chip. If he gets it, the evidence disappears forever. Liam retrieved the small cookie tin from its hiding place beneath the floorboard and handed the chip to Alex. "I don't know how to open it, but if you can," she nodded. "I have a contact, a former NSA engineer. We have to move now before Crane comes back." Just as she said that, Max let out another warning growl. The shed's window rattled. Headlights swept through the forest outside. They were here. "Get back!" Alex pulled Liam behind her, drawing a Glock from her jacket, her eyes scanning every shadow. Max stood in front of them, both teeth bared, ready to fight despite the pain in his leg. "We need to move, kid," she said grimly. "They know. And this time they're not here to negotiate." Liam clutched Max's fur tightly. "I won't leave Max behind." "No one's leaving anyone," Alex replied. "From now on, we're a team." And so a 5-year-old boy, alone in a world of deceit and danger, stepped fully into a battle he had never imagined, fighting for truth, for justice, and for a loyal companion who had risked everything to protect what was right. The roar of the engine echoed like a wild beast in the forest night. Headlights from the black SUV slashed through the darkness, cutting across the shed in stark, blinding beams like white knives. Liam shrank back, his hands gripping Max's fur tightly. His small heart pounded wildly in his chest. He had imagined himself as a hero many times, but he never thought this moment would come so fast, where the line between fantasy and life or death felt so terrifyingly real. "We've been found," Alex said quickly, her eyes scanning the window gun ready in her hand. "There are at least 2 of them armed, and they're not here to talk." Max, though still injured, growled fiercely, his back-arched ears perked, body tense and ready to defend until his last breath if necessary. "Is there a way out behind the shed?" Alex asked. Liam nodded, hands trembling, as he pointed to the far left corner where a few rotten floorboards had already come loose. "A shortcut to the edge of the forest, but it's really dark, the path's rough." "It's okay, we don't have another choice." Alex pulled Liam to his feet, tucked the small chip into the inner pocket of her jacket, then glanced at Max. "Can you move, warrior?" Max didn't need to answer. He lifted his leg, limping but with fire in his eyes. Despite his battered body, he was ready for Liam, for Ross, for the truth. Then with a violent crash, the shed door was kicked open, hinges flying, wood splintering against the wall with a bone-chilling crack. "Run!" Alex shouted. Three shadows burst out of the shed like a storm. Liam led the way, Alex shielding them from behind. Max ran beside them, every step a burst of pain, but he didn't make a sound. Behind them, shouts rang out. Flashlight beams slashed through the trees, and then a gunshot split the night, thunderous and sharp. A bullet slammed into a tree trunk just inches from Liam's ear, knocking him to the ground. Max immediately leapt over him, shielding his small body with a fierce snarl. Alex fired back. Two loud bangs echoed across the forest. "Keep running!" "Don't stop!" she shouted, dragging Liam to his feet. They dashed through trees, leaping over tangled roots, tearing through thickets that scratched their skin. Darkness swallowed them, save for the flickering lights chasing from behind. Liam's legs felt twice as heavy, his lungs burning from lack of air, but he clung to Alex's hand, knowing if he stopped, everything would be over. His mother would never know why he didn't come home. Finally, they reached an open clearing, the same spot where Liam had first met Max that fateful afternoon. But now it wasn't a playground. It was a battlefield. "I'll leave a false trail," Alex said quickly. "They'll think we crossed the stream, but we'll double back through the tunnel under that rock ridge." "There's a tunnel," Liam gasped. "There is, but it's narrow. We'll have to crawl." He nodded, though he wasn't sure how much strength he had left. Max panted heavily, his leg bleeding again. He couldn't run much longer. "They'll catch up if we don't do something," Alex muttered, biting her lip. "I need a distraction. Liam, can you take Max through the tunnel?" "What about you?" "I'll circle back through the woods, draw them off, but you have to keep going. Keep the chips safe no matter what." Liam nodded. With all the courage a 5-year-old could muster, he wrapped his arms around Max and whispered, "We'll go that way." "Okay, Max, Alex will be fine. She's a superhero. And we're heroes too, remember?" Max looked at him, then gave a slow nod. One step, two steps, together, they slipped into the narrow rock crevice, completely dark, with not even a sliver of light inside. Behind them, the shouting faded. Alex had succeeded. In the thick, choking blackness, there was only the sound of Max's steady breathing, the scrape of gravel under their hands, and the thunder of Liam's heart in his chest. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just clenched his little fist tighter because he knew he was carrying a truth that could save lives or expose a criminal empire. If he could survive the night, the narrow tunnel beneath the earth wasn't deep, but it was cold and cramped. Its damp stone walls and low ceiling forced Liam to crouch with each careful step. The only light came from the tiny flashlight clipped to his backpack zipper, a toy he once thought was only for treasure hunting in the backyard. Now it was the single thing guiding him through the darkness. Max followed closely behind, panting heavily. Each of his steps was a test of endurance, his wounded leg dragging behind, leaving a faint trail of blood across the tunnel floor. But he didn't whimper, didn't stop, as if he understood that inside this pitch-black cavern, the little boy beside him was his last hope. The deeper they went, the more the noise above faded. Eventually, only the whispering wind through stone cracks, the rhythmic drip of water onto the floor, and the pounding of Liam's heart remained. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know if there was even a way out. But he knew that whatever lay ahead couldn't be worse than what chased them from behind. After one particularly tight bend, the tunnel opened into a small chamber just large enough for someone to lie down and rest. In that strange, eerie silence, Liam stopped and sat. Max collapsed beside him, trembling from exhaustion and blood loss. The dim beam of the flashlight flickered across his eyes, not sharp anymore, but glazed and heavy, as if sleep might take him forever. "No, you can't sleep," Liam whispered, his voice cracking. "We're not safe yet. You have to hold on for Alec, for the puppies." And just then, like fate was listening, Max let out a faint whimper, his body twitching. Liam panicked at first, thinking the wound had worsened, But then he froze. It wasn't the wound. It was labor. "Oh my God, you're giving birth," Liam breathed. He had never witnessed a birth, let alone one from an injured dog in the middle of a dark cave, but the look Max gave him, part pain, part pleading, left no room for fear. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere," he whispered, fumbling through his backpack, pulling out a handkerchief and a small bottle of water. Every animal care video he'd ever seen on TV vanished from his memory. All he had left was instinct, the instinct of a boy who understood that at this moment no one else could help Max but him. Max writhed, her breathing labored body trembling. And then, after nearly half an hour of silent struggle in the dark, a fragile sound emerged, wet, tiny, and alive. 1, 2, 3, 4 small, trembling, blind lives were born into the belly of the earth. Liam wrapped each of them in his jacket, warming them with his breath and body heat. He didn't cry, but every breath felt like a silent sob lodged deep in his chest. Max licked his ear gently, a wordless thank you. Her eyes, though clouded with fatigue, still held something miraculous: trust. Trust that this boy would protect the lives she had just brought into the world. Far away, the wind outside shifted direction. Liam knew they couldn't stay here long. He took off his coat, wrapped the newborn pups inside, and gently patted Max's shoulder. "We have to keep moving. Alex will find us, but we have to get out, for the pups, for you." Max nodded. Weak but determined, Liam helped Max to his feet. He cradled the puppies to his chest, shielding them with his own small body. And then they moved on step by step through cold passageways, over sharp rocks, through the howling wind that whispered like the voice of the darkness itself. He did not know where he was going, but he knew why he had to go, deep in his small heart. Liam was no longer just a 5-year-old boy. He was the bearer of a secret that powerful forces wanted to destroy, the one who had helped a discarded warrior bring new life into a buried, forgotten world. The one who had learned the most important truth of all: courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward despite it. And in that moment, in the heart of the earth where life and death danced together, a miracle was born. Dawn slowly broke. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the canopy, pale and fragile. But to Liam, that light felt like life itself returning. The 5-year-old boy emerged from the cave mouth, his clothes torn, face streaked with dirt and ash. In his arms, he held a bundle of cloth. Inside were 4 newborn lives. Eyes still shut, soft and fragile. Max followed behind, staggering with every breath, each inhale like a blade through his ribs. Yet his eyes still shone, the eyes of a mother, of a survivor. Liam knew they needed help. Now he didn't know how far they were from safety, but stopping wasn't an option. He snapped off a thick branch, tied his jacket and backpack straps to it, creating a crude stretcher for Max. He didn't have strength, but his will burned like fire. "We're not giving up," he whispered. "I promised you. I promised the pups. I promised my mom." And then, as if the heavens heard him, a familiar voice cut through the morning silence. "Liam!" He froze, his eyes dazed from exhaustion, widened. "Mom!" he called, voice trembling. "Liam, where are you?" A woman's voice cried out in the wind. And then Emily appeared, bursting through the brush like a whirlwind. Her face was pale, her nurse uniform still wrinkled from a long overnight shift. Her eyes searched wildly until they landed on the small figure, her son. Her world. "Liam, my mom." Emily collapsed to her knees, pulling him into her arms, her heart breaking and healing all at once in that moment. No words could capture it. No tears could cleanse the fear that had gripped her soul through the long night. "Oh my God. What happened? Are you okay? What are you doing out here?" Liam didn't answer right away. He buried his face in her chest, shaking like someone who had just escaped a nightmare. Then he looked up and gently turned the cloth bundle in his arms. "I saved Max and Max's babies too." Emily leaned back, stunned. She saw Max, thin, bloody, barely moving, limping toward them. And when she noticed what Liam was holding, 4 tiny wriggling puppies, she couldn't breathe. "What is going on? I'll tell you everything. But right now, we need to help Max first." At that moment, more footsteps approached from behind. Emily spun around, her motherly instinct on full alert, ready to protect her son. But it wasn't the enemy, it was Alex. She approached, scratched and worn, but smiling through her sun-darkened face. A backpack hung from her shoulders, dried blood at her hip. She froze when she saw Liam still safe. "You did amazing, kid," she said, her voice low and trembling. "Better than most adults I've ever met." Emily looked at the stranger, then back at her son. "Who are you?" Alex stepped closer. "I'm a former partner of Max, or rather, Athena. We served together, and now thanks to your son, Athena survived, and so did the truth." For a few suspended moments, time stood still. In the heart of the coal forest, a mother cradled her son. A war veteran bowed before a boy, and a wounded dog having given birth in blood, and darkness lay breathing beside the new life she brought into the world. And hope for the first time flickered in a place once full of danger and despair. Alex pulled out a satellite phone and pressed a few buttons. "I just notified my people they'll be here in 20 minutes. Military ambulance vet team. Max and the pups will be safe. The chip, the evidence has been backed up and sent." "We've won." Emily looked at Liam, eyes welling up. You did something bigger than I ever imagined." "I just did what I thought was right," Liam replied. "Max didn't deserve to be abandoned. Neither do the puppies." Alex gently placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. "One more thing. Military protocol says any pups not fit for service are eligible for civilian adoption. One of these might stay." Emily turned to Liam. His face lit up. "Really, we can keep one?" "Technically, there's paperwork," Alex smiled. "But today, that little one is a hero, and heroes deserve a home." Liam looked down at the smallest pup sleeping peacefully in his arms. "I'll name him Spark because he's the light in all our darkness." And so in a forest once stained with blood and peril, a new promise was born, a new home, a new beginning. No medals, no titles. Just a boy, a dog, and the truth nearly buried, now safeguarded by the bravest heart the world would ever know. A 5-year-old who chose love and never let anyone be left behind. Barely 10 minutes after Alex sent the emergency signal, the sound of an engine roared through the forest, but it didn't come from the direction she'd hoped. It wasn't the military rescue helicopter, not an ambulance, not backup. It was him. "No, it can't be." Alex froze, her body taut as a drawn bow. Emily clutched at Liam tightly while Max, exhausted after giving birth, growled lowly, positioning himself between his pups, and the danger a wild glint of fury in his eyes. "He's here, isn't he?" Liam whispered. Alex nodded. "Crane, he's earlier than I expected." The black SUV slid through the bed of dead leaves and came to a halt at the forest's edge. Both doors flung open. Crane stepped out, neat, cold, controlled, with a man behind him nearly twice the size of a normal person, coat concealing the not-so-well-hidden rifle slung under his arm. Alex moved forward, standing between him and the others. "No more running," she said, her voice like sharpened steel. "You're not getting the chip." Crane smiled, eyes like frozen stone. "Oh, Alex, I don't need the chip anymore. I just need to erase anyone who knows it exists." The words fell like a guillotine slicing through the air. Emily pulled Liam closer, whispering in his ear, "Close your eyes, baby." But Liam kept them wide open, staring at Crane, the man who had threatened his mother, nearly killed Max, and now stood holding a weapon like a hunter ready to finish the hunt. "That child," Crane said, pointing directly at Liam. "He found the dog, found the chip. Remarkable, but also inconvenient." Crane raised his hand. His bodyguard stepped forward and drew the gun. Bang! The shot cracked through the forest air like lightning. Emily screamed. Liam dropped to his knees, but no one was hit. The bodyguard stumbled back, then collapsed. A single bullet had struck him square in the shoulder, precise, cold, and fired from somewhere beyond. "Drop your weapons," a voice blared through a distant megaphone. From the far edge of the woods, 4 soldiers in camo emerged, rifles raised, military insignias clearly displayed. At the front stood a gray-haired woman, her eyes steady. Commander Monroe, the one Alex had spoken of, Crane turned, realizing he was surrounded. His expression shifted, but he didn't lower his gun. "You're done, Crane," Monroe shouted. "We have the evidence. Your arms deals, co-conspirators, bank accounts, stolen weapons, manifest, all of it. The government has it now." Crane sneered. "I don't care anymore. If I'm going down, I'm taking at least one of you with me." He spun around, aiming his weapon directly at Emily and Liam. "No!" Alex screamed, lunging forward. At the same time, Max sprang his battered body, becoming a missile of fur and fury. A gunshot rang out. A scream ripped the air. A growl echoed like thunder. It all happened in a heartbeat. Crane went down hard, Max crashing into his chest, knocking the weapon away. Crane's head slammed against a rock. He was out cold. Max crumpled beside him, blood pouring from his torn wound. Liam broke free from his mother's arms, rushing to his friend. "Max, no, Max, don't leave me." The boy dropped to his knees, cradling Max's massive head in his small arms. Blood soaked his shirt. Alex scrambled over, wrapping bandages around Max's chest, muttering prayers between her teeth. "Not yet. You're not done. You've got puppies to raise." Max panted heavily, his eyes dim. But when Liam called his name, the dog strained, lifted his head slightly, and licked the boy's hand one last time. A goodbye and a promise. The rescue team arrived. Emily, Monroe, and Alex worked together to stabilize Max and place him gently on a stretcher. "He still has a pulse," a medic said. "He's not giving up." Liam held his mother's hand, tears streaming down his face, but his eyes burned bright. "We won, didn't we, Mom?" Emily hugged him, voice trembling. "We did, Liam. Thanks to you and Max." Alex approached and laid a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're the real hero. You didn't just save lives, you saved justice." Liam watched the military vehicle carrying Max disappear into the trees. His eyes dry now. No longer afraid, no longer trembling, only determined, carrying a promise he would never forget. 3 weeks later, the sky above the military base in Oregon was crystal clear. Sunlight poured over the outdoor recovery garden, where injured soldiers were relearning to walk and retired combat dogs basked peacefully in the warmth. Among them stood Liam, wearing a neatly buttoned white shirt, his hair carefully combed by his mother, next to Alex. His eyes fixed on the silver doors at the end of the hallway, and in his hands was a letter written in his own young, shaky handwriting. "A letter to Max, to the greatest friend I've ever had. Are you sure you want to read it before seeing him?" Alex asked, smiling gently. "I want Max to know everything I've been keeping in here." Liam nodded, his voice small but steady. "I promise I won't cry." The door opened. Max stepped out, his back legs still in a light cast, but his gait steadier. His fur had been trimmed for treatment, but his eyes were bright, alive with energy. Behind him walked a military nurse, checking the special patient one last time before handing him over to his new caretakers. Liam didn't run. He pulled the letter from his pocket, unfolded it, and began to read aloud in a child's voice that somehow sounded far too grown up. "Max, I don't know if you'll understand every word I wrote, but I want to say you're the bravest soul I've ever met. You protected us from Mr. Crane. You never gave up even when it hurt too much to stand, and you were the first to make me believe that even a 5-year-old could do something big." Liam looked up. Max stood still, tilting his head slightly as if listening. Around them, the soldiers had all paused what they were doing. A hush fell over the space. "I don't know what's going to happen to you next, but I promise to take care of your babies. Mom says they've been adopted by kind families, but one of them is staying with me, Spark. He's just like you, and I'll teach him to be a warrior just like his mom." Liam's voice trembled, but he didn't stop. "You're not just a combat dog, you're family, a hero, and the best friend I've ever had." He folded the letter and walked forward, kneeling as he reached out his hand. Max didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and pressed his head into the boy's palm. Liam burst into tears, not out of sadness, but because for the first time he didn't feel like a helpless child leaning on his mother. He had protected, fought, and won. He had become part of something far bigger than himself. Emily stepped forward, carrying the little puppy, Spark now officially approved for adoption. Son, someone's excited to see his hero. Spark waddled over his tiny tail, wagging wildly, then nestled right between Liam and Max, between two generations of the same warrior bloodline, as if he had always belonged there. Suddenly, a car horn blared at the gate. A civilian SUV pulled up. A group of journalists, photographers, and government representatives stepped out. A small ceremony, unannounced and unpublicized, but to those present, it was a tribute to an unsung hero. Liam Carter, a woman in a crisp suit, began holding a microphone. You acted with bravery, compassion, and resolve far beyond your years. Because of you, not only was a warrior saved, but a truth long buried was brought into the light. She bowed and presented Liam with the Young Civilian Valor Medal, a rare honor bestowed by the government. Liam accepted it, eyes shimmering, but then he turned to Max, removed the medal from around his own neck, and hung it gently around the dog's. The real hero is Max, he said. I just helped him finish his mission. Applause erupted like thunder. No one could hold back their tears. In the midday sun, three figures, one boy, one mother dog, and one puppy, walked side by side toward the Carter family car. The sky above stretched endlessly. No trace of violence or fear, as if only a new beginning, written in love and courage. Alex remained behind, watching them go, her eyes softening. That boy didn't just save a life, she said to Monroe. He pulled us all back from the edge of silence. One child, one promise, and one dog changed everything.